Hola a todos, hola a todas, bienvenidos a El Futuro. This is going to be part one of 3 lessons in which we are going to focus ourselves on the future tense in Spanish. Don't be scared, don't be afraid. It is very, very simple. And when I tell you it is very simple, trust me, it is very simple. There are a few exceptions, but for generally the rule is the same, and you will see it applies to most verbs, and it's very, very simple. So let's start by the verb to be, which is one of the most important verbs in Spanish, of course. And we can analyze how the future tense in Spanish is formed by studying this verb. So before, in the other tenses, we have seen that we have to take away the suffix of the conjugation, in this case er, second conjugation, and add some suffixes depending on the conjugation, depending on the subject, on the pronoun. When it comes to the future instead, it's completely different. We don't have to take away anything, actually we add. Take the whole verb, leave it as it is, and add these suffixes for each person, and these are the same for every conjugation. So either first, second, or third conjugation, the suffixes will be e, as, a, hemos, eis, an. So again, you maintain the whole verb as it is and add these suffixes depending on the pronoun and not depending on the conjugation, because the conjugations will behave, the 3 conjugations will behave in the same way. So, yo seré, tú serás, él, ella, usted será, nosotros seremos, vosotros seréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes serán. As you can see, there is no mystery, no problem. You just remember e, as, a, hemos, eis, an, and you add this to the verb you want to use. So this will be I will be, you will be, he, she will be, we will be, etc. Okay, now here it is haber, which is another important verb, the second auxiliary verb in Spanish. And the reason it is here is that it's the first of the few verbs we will encounter which are irregular. As you can see, the verb is haber, and you should add a suffix e, as, a, hemos, eis, an to haber. So it should be haberá, haberé, haberás, haberá, haberemos, haberéis, haberán, but it is incorrect. It is incorrect because the correct form is irregular. You take away the e and you maintain only the r, and then you add the suffix. So, habré, yo habré, tú habrás, él, ella, usted habrá, nosotros habremos, vosotros habréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes habrán. So again, it is irregular. Instead of simply maintaining the verb and adding the suffixes, you have to take away the e and then add the suffixes. Remember that the verb haber does not have any meaning, precise meaning. It does not mean to have. It is simply a verb, an auxiliary verb that will help you form other types of verbs. So again, it has no meaning. It does not mean to have, because to have, meaning to have a possession of something, is in Spanish tener. Okay, let's carry on with hablar. As you can see, it's a regular verb. You maintain the verb hablar, and then you add the suffixes e, as, a, hemos, eis, an. So, yo hablaré, tú hablarás, él, ella, usted hablará, nosotros hablaremos, vosotros hablaréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes hablarán. Very simple, very easy. Just add the suffixes needed according to the pronoun. Let's see this verb, saltar. Oh, so hablar means to speak, to talk. Saltar means to jump. So, again, you maintain the verb and add the suffixes yo saltaré, tú saltarás, él, ella, usted saltará, nosotros saltaremos, vosotros saltaréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes saltarán. Okay, so this was the verb to jump, saltar. Escribir, to write. Escribir, again. You leave the verb as it is, don't change anything, just add the suffixes. Yo escribiré, tú escribirás, él, ella, usted escribirá, nosotros escribiremos, vosotros escribiréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes escribirán. Remember that you have to put the tilde on top of the vowels of the suffixes, except for the first person plural, which does not require it. So this was escribir. Now, leer. Remember that leer has two E's. Leer. Very regular. Yo leeré, tú leerás, él, ella, usted leerá, nosotros leeremos, vosotros leeréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes leerán. Very good. Dormir, again. As you can see, very, very simple. There is no reason to worry. I told you it was very easy. Just as I've said, there are a few exceptions that we're going to study throughout these 3 lessons. One, we have already seen it. It's the verb haber. But even then, it's not a big of a deal. Dormir means to sleep. And we have dormiré, dormirás, dormirá, dormiremos, dormiréis, dormirán. So again, you maintain the verb and you add the suffixes e, as, a, hemos, eis, an. Sentir means to feel. Yo sentiré, tú sentirás, él, ella, usted sentirá. Nosotros sentiremos, vosotros sentiréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes sentirán. Perfect. Pagar means to pay. Again, yo pagaré, tú pagarás, él, ella, usted pagará, nosotros pagaremos, vosotros pagaréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes pagarán. No mystery. E, as, a, hemos, eis, an. All the suffixes added to the base verb without the need of changing anything in the verb itself. Comunicar, which means to communicate, or comunicarse, which means to communicate with someone else. For example, I can say, yo comunico un mensaje, means I communicate a message. Yo me comunico con Sara, means I communicate myself, so I get in contact with Sarah. That's why it can mean 2 slightly different things depending on if you're using the base verb or if you're using the reflexive verb. Comunicar o comunicarse. So I put the reflexive pronoun in brackets. So there is no issue with the verb. It behaves the same as the others. So yo me comunicaré, tú te comunicarás, él, ella, usted se comunicará, nosotros nos comunicaremos, vosotros os comunicaréis, ellos, ellas, ustedes se comunicarán. Again, I tell you, it is not necessary to use the pronouns, reflexive pronouns. It depends on if you are meaning that you want to communicate something or that you are communicating with someone else. If it is you want to communicate something, just use the verb comunicar. Yo comunicaré, tú comunicarás, etc. If you want to say that you are communicating with someone else, then use the verb comunicarse. So yo me comunicaré, tú te comunicarás, etc. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now let's see a few words that can help us in defining the future. First of all, tomorrow is mañana. Be careful because mañana means 2 things. First one is tomorrow, so the day after today. The second meaning is the morning. If I say esta mañana, that means this morning. So pay attention, it can mean both these two things. Mañana. Remember that the N with a little wave on top is a ñ. Mañana. Mañana. Pasado mañana is the day after tomorrow. So literally is when you pass tomorrow. When you pass tomorrow, you go into the day after tomorrow. So if it is this is the meaning. Mañana, tomorrow. Pasado means that is past. So once tomorrow passes, literally. En 2 días means in 2 days, literally in 2 days. En 2 días. It can be en 3 días, en 10 días, en 30 días, etc. En 10 años, in 10 years. In 10 years. Año, el año, the year. Los años, the years. So we can now make a few examples, a few sentences to understand better how to use these words and these verbs. For example, mañana hablaré con mi madre. Tomorrow I will speak with my mother. So literally, mañana, tomorrow. Hablaré, yo, first person singular. Hablaré, I will speak. Con, with. Mi, my. Madre, mother. Mañana hablaré con mi madre. Another sentence, leeremos un libro nuevo esta noche. Leeremos, nosotros, first person plural. We will read. Un libro nuevo, a new book. Remember, in Spanish, we tend to use the adjective after the noun, contrary to what happens in English. Esta noche means tonight. Perfect. Pagaréis en 3 días. Pagaréis, vosotros, second person plural. You will pay en 3 días, in 3 days. And finally, hablaremos bien español. Hablaremos nosotros, so we will speak. Bien español, this means we will speak a good Spanish. We will speak Spanish good, nicely. Very good. Okay, now it's time to do some exercise to consolidate what we have learned so far in this lesson about the future. You will have a few verbs and pronouns you have to translate to Spanish, and then we will see together the results. So whenever you're ready, I will start. As always, you can pause the video and then come back to see the solution. So, let's see. We will communicate. Nosotros comunicaremos. As you can see, the verb is comunicar, and so we keep it that way, and we add the suffix for the first person plural, which is hemos. Comunicaremos. They will speak. Ellos hablarán. The verb is hablar, and so we add an a third person plural. I will read. Yo leeré. Verb leer, and I add the suffix for the first person singular e. Yo leeré. They will jump. Ellos saltarán. The verb is saltar, and I add an because it's third person plural. Saltarán. We will be. Nosotros seremos. The verb is ser, and so I add hemos, first person plural. And finally, she will sleep. Ella dormirá. Dormir, the verb, to sleep, and I add the suffix for the third person singular, which is a. Dormirá. As you can see, very, very, very simple. Okay, so now we can review very quickly the new things we have learned today. Of course, the future and how we can build a future tense in Spanish. And we have also learned about the verb pagar, which means to pay, and the verb comunicar, which means to communicate, as well as comunicarse, which means to communicate with someone else. Mañana means tomorrow. Pasado mañana means the day after tomorrow. En means in. In 3 days. En 3 días. Perfect.